ladies, welcome to our No Bad Days Simple Wellness for Women show. I'm Jolene Fisher, your host, and every episode of the No Bad Days show will give you a view into the life of another woman. She'll share her story, her triumphs, her struggles, and the lessons she's learned along her path. And my goal as your host is to bring topics to you that are relevant and encouraging, because I want you to be inspired to be the hero of your own story. That is why I introduce you to brave women who have done hard things and continue to do hard things, and they are truly living out the motto of the No Bad Days woman. So today I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Deborah Beard, and she is a 66-year-old wife and mother of 3 wonderful children, and these are in her words. And she and her husband were blessed through adoption with her 3 kids, and she has 1 beautiful granddaughter. I'm sure she'll talk a lot more about that later. You'll hear about her struggles growing up in a biracial family during the Black Power movement of the 60s, and life now living in the Northwest. Her childhood through adult health challenges has finally led to eventually led to a battle with breast cancer, and her emotional, physical, and spiritual journey through that is something that she's going to share with us today. So I can't wait for that. And through those ashes, she's really had a big heart and passion for helping others through a therapy that she came across called BEMER Technology. And she now owns her own business called Vibrant Cells LLC. So this technology, she will explain a little bit about later, but is a non-invasive therapy. And she has an office up in Franklin Park Medical Center in Spokane, Washington. So welcome, Deborah.
Thank you, Jolene. This is such an honor, and I sure appreciate you asking me to come and just share my story.
Yeah, I'm so happy you're here because I've known you through women's networking groups, and when we're in those, we don't really get to know each other on a deeper level. So this is really exciting for me as well.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. So
yeah. So my first question to you, just to kind of kick things off, is tell us a little bit more about your background, where you grew up, and a little bit more about what you mentioned in your bio about growing up in the 60s.
Okay, I grew up in Topeka, Kansas, and I am the 4th of 6 children, 4 girls first, and then 2 boys. Always like 5 moms because we were always telling them what to do, and just spent my whole life there really until I got headed to Kansas State in Manhattan. My father is African American and my mother was Mexican. Just a beautiful family, brothers and sisters, and my mom and dad, my parents, have passed away since, well, it's been a few years, but we just had a really good growing up experience. When I probably was in grade school when I really started to become aware of color issues, I'll say. I didn't have any idea what was going on until I looked back. The civil rights movement, it had probably since 1966, at least a decade just learning about stuff like that. But I just remember that I couldn't go swimming with my friends. I couldn't go into the swimming pools, and this was in Kansas. My dad was the president of the Office of Economic Opportunity. I always remember that name, even though I didn't really understand it. But my challenges, I just first said, you know, I came out of a great family. I love that my parents taught me the values of loving people and not caring about their skin color. I was in an integrated school, an integrated neighborhood. But when this whole thing started coming around, it was on me to start making decisions of what I was going to do when we had to boycott the schools. It was the hardest thing for me because people that know me know I just love people. I just doesn't matter what color you are. I just enjoy people. And it was a real challenge for me to, so to speak, make a decision on if I was going to boycott like we were supposed to. I was leading all my white friends, my Caucasian friends. If I didn't, then it was, oh, you aren't, you're not doing what you should do. So it was a real dilemma for me, and I don't think that people can really, I've shared that with some of my friends, today, but based on your personality, Jolene, you struggle or you don't struggle. And I struggled because I'm more of a mercy caregiver person like that. And I really didn't like having to leave my friends. When I was in junior high school, I was voted, it was high school, student council president.
Yeah.
And I won against two very popular Caucasian gals. That said a lot to me because, you know, people liked me and I like people, but I will never forget, this is during this time period, walking home from school with the treasurer, and he was a cute little white guy, and we liked each other. It was just we enjoyed each other's company, and that was the first time as I was walking home, the bus from another school came by and I heard somebody yell out the N-word. But then they also said that he was an in-lover. And I was just surprised by all of it because I was just starting to get more and more exposed to it. But the combination of not even learning how to swim till I was in college because they wouldn't let us in the swimming pool, you know, a lot of people don't remember their first swimming suit. I was in late grade school when I got my first swimming suit. So it was a challenge, but I love that I have the combination that God, I'm who I am because this is what God wanted me to be. I love that my parents raised me to respect and care for people and not be prejudiced. And you know, when I went to college, my first college roommate had never even seen a Black person. But she'd never been around. She was way out in the country, the farms. But she was like, when she first came in the room, you know. But we ended up becoming best friends, and I taught her things, and she taught me things. So it's an experience that I think each person has an individual experience when they're growing up during that time. But because of being biracial, I was either not Black enough to my Black friends. I would get called names if I wasn't, you know, doing what I supposed to be doing. And it was just like I was kind of going back and forth. So I've had that challenge, but not here in Spokane. You know, if anybody, I don't know if any of the listeners are from Spokane, but it's a predominantly white community. And we moved here 39 years ago. And the percentage was like, I don't know, 1%, meaning the Beards. It's interesting, but we've enjoyed living here. So
Yeah, that is you're a pioneering woman from back then to take a stand and actually say, no, this is the way it should be. And that's
yeah.
How old were you when you had to boycott the school?
I was in the 6th grade, I believe. My father had come home from Washington, D.C., and this was a long time before, but I'd never seen, there were faucets that said white and colored. And of course, our names have changed along: colored, Negro, Black, and now African American. But it was just an odd thing. So,
Deborah, you're cutting out a little bit. So I'll go ahead and interrupt in here a little bit until your screen comes back. Hopefully it does. Let's see. Pause here for a minute.
Bad experience.
Hold on one sec. Can you hear me?
A lot of different things, but I have not personally, if everybody else can see, but you're
Deborah, can you hear me?
Frozen on my end.
Yeah, you're frozen on your end. Like your face isn't moving, but I can kind of hear you cutting in and out. Okay, there, you're back.
Yeah, you froze for a second. I don't know what that was about.
I know. I think at our maybe on your end, mine seems to have pretty good coverage as far as Wi-Fi. But if your Wi-Fi signal,
sorry. I hope that doesn't happen.
No, it's okay. Because later when I create the YouTube and podcast, I'll cut all that out so people won't even know it's there. But the people watching live are hearing us still
Okay.
talking about this. So look, I don't want to interrupt you, but you were saying something and you got cut off. So it just talked about how the faucets and the different names of the faucets, and then how your dad came home. You were in 6th grade. He came back from a trip.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we was in Washington, D.C., and when he came home, he had showed us pictures of the faucets, the public drinking water faucets, and they were side by side, but one said coloreds only, whites only, and it was just all odd to me. I mean, I didn't live through that time, but I lived through it, hearing stories and just things that I haven't personally experienced, because, as I said, we've lived here in Spokane for 39 years, and the majority of my friends are Caucasian. I definitely have Black friends too, but Spokane is more of a Caucasian. It's not like Seattle, so to speak.
Right.
But I surround myself with people who are quality people, and that's what is so important to me, and we don't think about that. So I love it. I love my friends.
I was going to ask you before we started freezing, was how did you meet your husband?
I met Danny at Kansas State University. I was a home economics major, and he was a very popular basketball player. And I think that he actually liked me because I wasn't I don't know, what do you call those gals that just hang out at just right up by the lockers? I wasn't a groupie at all. And I'm 6 foot tall, and he's 6'3". I thought he was so tall. And then when they started the music, da, 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 the basketball, and they all came out, here comes Danny Beard as a guard, and he was like this, and then all the other players were like this. And I thought, wow, but I think we appreciated each other for a lot of different reasons, but I think he liked me because literally I was just liked him for who he was. He was respectful and kind to me, and I liked that a lot. And he actually, I was introduced to him by a girlfriend, but she had known him the year prior, and so she introduced me, and then we dated for a couple of years, and then he went to play just for a short period of time overseas basketball, and then when we were engaged, he started with an organization, Athletes in Action. He started playing basketball with Athletes in Action, which is part of Campus Crusade for Christ. And at that time, we've been married 45 years last week, or it's been a couple of weeks, 45 years. At that time, he needed to raise $600 to live on each month. And then when we got married, it was $900. So go figure on that one. I'm worth $300. So. But anyway, we got married, and he started coaching in Indianapolis, Indiana, and then he coached in Birmingham, Alabama, and Charleston, Illinois, and that's where we got our first son. There.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your kids.
Well, I told you I was a home economics major, so my desire was always, I'm going to sew my maternity clothes, I'm going to make all my kids' clothes, I'm going to do all of this. And we got married, and 7 years went by, and no children. And I will never forget the day that a girlfriend called me. Her husband was on the other line. Danny was on one end, and we were like on 4 phones, but she hung up, they hung up, and she said, Debbie, have you ever considered that maybe God might be talking to you through your husband? Because Danny had mentioned adoption. Well, I had my preconceived preconceived plans. So that's where I was. These were my plans, and this is what we're going to do. And when she asked me that question, Debbie, have you considered that maybe God is speaking to you through your husband? I said, no. I'm right. He's wrong. But I hung up the phone, and I literally prayed about it. And I just said, God, if you want to change my heart, then you're going to have to do it. And I remember the very next month when that time of the month started again. I remember where I was, and this is what came to me, God's word. And I just said, God, I know that you have a plan for my life that is good, for good and not of evil, to give me a future and a hope. And you know the desires of my heart, because you've told me to give you the desires of my heart. But then I remember when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, he said, Father, nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done. And of course, I'm not comparing myself to Christ, but those things came to my mind. I remember it as clear as day. And I said, God, I'm going to give you the desires of my heart. I want to have children. But I know you have a good plan for my life. And so nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done. And Jolene, it was like the next day, my heart started softening because I wasn't happy at all about this. And sure enough, in a year, we were going to an adoption agency, and we were going through the whole process. And the adoption worker said, she asked us both at the same time, are you open to twins? And I said, yes. And Danny said, at the same time. She gave us a book. We were in Chicago. She gave us a book, 2 books, and they were about this thick. And they were all full of children that were considered minority children, hard to place children, and older children. And I started flipping through the books, and I saw myself going like this. Oh. And then I said, no, I don't want to do this. I just didn't want to do this because I wanted to have a baby. And so I closed the book, and I told her I would really like to be placed with a girl who has not delivered yet, that chooses us. And that's where we left it. And sure enough, like 4 months later, my husband was in Brazil playing basketball. As soon as he got home, he got a call. And, oh gosh, I just remember like yesterday. And we had been wallpapering, but I didn't know if we were going to get a boy or girl. And she asked me what I was doing. And I told her, and I said, do you have a baby? And she said, we sure do. And I'll never forget it. I just like started sweating, but I ran to the gym. My husband was coaching, and it was the kind of gym you walk into, and the gym is way down, and all the players are down. Their balls are bouncing and everything, and I'm hollering at husband, we got a baby. We got a baby. But he couldn't hear her. He thought I said, I'm going to have a baby, because we were thinking. And so we met in a corridor down in the hall, and told him, and we just kind of raced. And the very next day, we went to go get our son. And then after that, we moved from Chicago shortly after that, Illinois area. And my son was 3 when we got our next girl, but they had called us from the Chicago area because her birth mother was looking for someone in particular. Here in Spokane, we had moved to Spokane. It's quite expensive. Anybody listening who has tried, it's gone, knows it's very expensive, but it was such a wonderful vision for us to be able to be called from Illinois and say we have in several areas of all of these agencies in Illinois, and the birth mother has a specific request. She wants a couple in their mid-30s. She wants a black or racial black family, and she wants the father to be involved with kids in sports. Can you believe that?
Oh,
And
that gave me
it was
chills.
amazing. I know. And so my son I kept asking, do you want a brother or a sister? I want sister. I want sister. He just kept saying he wanted a sister. But when we said, this is our girl, because they came looking for us. We went to the airport to pick her up, and we were running late, and ran in. My husband just dropped me off. I ran in, and I said, is flight 411 in? They said it's been in for 15 minutes. And I just started running through. If anybody's been in the Spokane airport, I'm going through there, and I'm looking for a little chocolate baby, somebody holding this little brown baby. In the midst of all of these people, I'm just looking for a little brown baby. And I stopped these women, and were you on flight 411? And they said we were. And then my heart beating faster and faster. And as they went by, they said, she must be the mother. And then I just went, oh, I was so excited. And then the tears were just rolling. They started coming. And I got up to the top of the ramp, and all of these people are coming towards me because the flights have been, the people were coming. And all of a sudden, I heard this little man say to me, are you looking for a little girl, a little baby? And he says, she's up there waiting for you. And then I just started to really cry. So I got up to the top at that time where they let everybody in. My husband's still parking the car with our son. And then all of a sudden, somebody grabbed my arm, and I turned, and there's a girl holding my daughter. And then I saw cameras flashing, because this was her first time bringing a child, her first adoption. And our child, we were blessed to get her right here in Spokane, and they're just all beautiful kids, and I love all of them. They all have great qualities in their life. They've all got great things going on in their life, and so we're just happy. We've tried to, they've grown up here in the West as African-American children, and I think my youngest has probably she's involved in the music industry, and she's doing a lot of things where she's kind of really grasping hold really of her identity, and in embracing and understanding more her color more than maybe my other two children had that experience. I think it's just been a good experience for all of us being here. So.
Wow. Your story is so cool. I
love my stories. I'm sorry I went on. I love telling the story of my kids, getting my children. He knew that what the longing of my heart was to be a mom. So.
Yeah, and I resonate with your story, because when we wanted a third child, when I wanted a third child, my husband was like adamant to not have a third baby because we already had two healthy biological children.
Yes.
And I went into every avenue I could possibly think of: adoption, foster care, but I did it secretly without him knowing. Like I don't really want him to know that I'm secretly looking for that third child, because I know this isn't going to be a biological child. And that was years before our son Roderick walked into our lives as a 17-year-old.
Oh, wow.
God has his plans, but it may not be in our own timing, right?
It was. And, my husband kind of felt the same way about having three, because I was struggling with health issues so incredibly, but I longed to have a third child. I just longed to have, and I journaled. I didn't know why. I just didn't feel complete, but he knew I was struggling physically big time.
So at what ages were your kids when you were diagnosed with cancer?
I was diagnosed 15 years ago on my birthday. I was 50 years old when I found out, and almost 16 years now. 16. My son was, I can't remember their age because chemo brain, I think some of that time, but my youngest was about 14. My daughter had just headed to Whitworth College. She was going to school, and my son was living in Seattle. So each one of the kids, and one of the things I think women who have had any type of cancer or struggled with that, they know that every child is different. Their response to what you're going through is different. One of them was a nurturer. One of them went back like this, and the other one was just quiet. And one of them was not happy. She was not happy about what I was going through. I mean, it was just, she got angry, you know. And so just learning for me too, going through, I had to understand that this is affecting me, but when you are diagnosed with cancer and you're going through treatment, it's affecting everyone around you. Your spouse, who is the caregiver, or not the caregiver, but it was a hard thing when we were first told, because it was my 50th birthday. My husband brought me breakfast in bed. And I remember waking up hearing the birds singing, May 31st, hearing the birds singing, smelling the food, the bacon and all that yummy stuff. And he brought this tray to me, and he had set up at that time, you know, those big video cameras, the big honking things. He had set it up at the bottom of the bed, and I didn't know, but this was going to all be recorded. I reached for the tray, saying, oh, you know, I was so happy, thank you. And I pulled back really quickly. I pulled back and I went like this, ow. And because I had gone forward, I had this sharp surging pain down my arm. I don't know what it was. It got continually worse that day, and then I ended up going to the doctor. But because both of my parents had died of heart disease of some kind, I was feeling aching on this side, numbness, and I thought I could be having a heart issue, you know. I went to the doctor. He did an echocardiogram. He said, Debbie, your heart looks fine. My focus was completely on the heart. I was completely relieved. And as he was leaving, he put his hand on the door knob and he said, Debbie, is there anything else I can do for you, after we talked about family? And I said, oh, by the way, what are these two lumps right here? And so he closed the door and he came back, because I had felt two lumps when I went like that, and I'd never felt it before. One of the things I encourage you to is do those exams, because I always use a scrunchie. Women know what those little scrunchies are that you shower with, and I didn't feel that, but I felt it was in my breast for like months prior, but I just thought maybe it's time for me to start my period or whatever. So kind of went on a journey, and you know, when we told the kids, everybody was in the room. We were all at the same time about a week later. So
can you tell us about how the diagnosis happened, how you actually were diagnosed, because it went from feeling two lumps to talk about your journey right after that?
I'm sorry. I was diagnosed, well, I went to the doctor, and once he did, he came back in the room and he felt them. He said, Debbie, I'm going to, I think I'm going to send you down to get an ultrasound. And so I went down the hall, and I remember just laying there, and they put this jelly on me, you know, to move that thing around, but I saw a big screen over there, and it was just all black and ugly, and the gal came in, he left, the technician left, and she brought the doctor in. At this time, I know now things I never knew before cancer, but then the doctor came in, and she had the doctor doing it again. The doctor set me up, and she said, and I didn't appreciate it at all, how she communicated to me. She said, well, first of all, I want to tell you that your breasts are pathetic. Those are the words she used.
Oh my goodness.
And it's sad. She said, they're just full of fibrocystic tissue. She said, but that's not my concern. And then she had me look at the screen, and she said, you see those two little white almond shaped things right there? That's what I'm concerned about. She says, I'm going to talk to your doctor. I'm going to have you make sure you call him first thing in the morning, and then you need to plan on surgery. Still at that time, I had no knowledge at all. I just thought, okay, let's get these lumps out. Going through my fatigue and the struggles that I have, I set my alarm for 7:59 because I just was always tired. I set my alarm to call my doctor first thing in the morning before, right in the call. He called me prior to me calling him.
Oh my goodness.
And he told me, Debbie, I'm going to send you to a surgeon to have a biopsy of what's going on. We talked for a short period of time, and then right there I asked him, and I was standing right over here. I remember I said, after he started talking, I thought, and then I said, Dr. Roth, could this be cancer? And there was a dead silence. It seemed like a minute, but it was maybe 3 seconds. And he said, yes, Debbie, it could. He said, my staff and I will be praying for you. And then that's the first time I was like, whoa. But you don't know anything about cancer unless you've walked through it or walked through it in some way with a family member. I called my husband. My husband was getting ready to run basketball camps in Alaska, and he would have to leave. And so he surprised me and flew one of my sisters from Alabama up to be with me. And she was here when we got the call that it was HER2 positive, almost stage 4. They called it 3B advanced. It was already considered metastatic, and I didn't know what that meant. And he told me that means, he says, the problem is your cancer that we found is not in the original site. We have to find where it came from. And he said 90%, pretty 90% sure it's not the breast, but we'll find where it came from. It was my breast. They ended up finding where it came from. I had a mammogram, but what happens, I call them smashograms, but anyway, that's not a story. When they do this, now they have the imaging. The tumor was 4 inches by 2 inches by 1/2 inch. It was back against the chest wall. So even though I was experiencing it had already gone into my lymph nodes, and that's what I'd found. But they found all of that out when we made the decision to. It was very hard for me, but I made the decision at that time to do cancer treatment with chemotherapy and radiation, because it was a specific cancer treatment, but then a general cancer treatment where you lose all of your hair. And we ended up deciding to go to Seattle for my treatment there. And we're just very blessed because we drove every Thursday to go to a Friday appointment and drove back Friday. Anybody that knows Spokane to Seattle, every 7 days. And then my husband was doing some of his business work, and a gentleman from Alaska Airlines said, my wife has walked through this. Let me see what I can do for you. And from that point on, he put us on an airplane, no cost. And then he was working with a car company, and the car company said, I'm sorry.
That's a beautiful story.
I was trying not to cry, but we were so provided for by these people that we did not know. We didn't know them. And he provided a car for us so that once we were at the airport, we drove from the airport to the center and back. And then another gentleman that we did not know, he said, I have a suite up above my house. He said, where's your wife getting treatment? And he said, we're only 5 minutes from that place. Why don't you just stay here? So we had that place to stay for quite a while. So tears come to my eyes when I think back of the goodness of God. Period.
I know. I just was thinking these are angels that
Yeah.
you didn't
Yeah.
know. How did they come to be?
It's amazing. It's just such a wonderful thing. And we were in that suite when my husband shaved my hair, because you start to lose your hair about a maximum of 14 days. And I had very, very long hair, and my husband's an unlicensed barber, and it was just coming out. And so he cut it for me, and that was probably harder for everybody else than for me. So, because my kids and my family, they love my hair, but it grew back, as you can. It's not as thick, but it grew back.
Deborah, you're such a beautiful woman. At the age of 66, you have no wrinkles on your face.
Oh,
You are like radiating.
oh, thank you.
But I know that you have a very healthy lifestyle now. And during your cancer treatments, you did some alternative therapy as well, didn't you?
I did. After I was through with my chemotherapy, it was extremely rough, and I do want to say, before I say the alternative, this time in my life was an incredible time of being encouraged and ministered to by so many friends and people. My husband and another friend set up 4 months of meals. Never did the first of the month. We do the first of the month the next month. So I was excited for that way. I came and helped me clean, which was a humbling thing for me. You know, I ended up joining a breast cancer group we called Bosom Buddies, these are just wonderful girlfriends of mine. We all encourage each other. I struggled. You know, you struggle when you're very toxic and you're going through all that nauseous stuff. You know, I struggled a lot. But when I was through with all of that, I was just in so much pain. I couldn't bend my hands. I had a lot of stuff going on. I couldn't be hugged. And as we know, with this whole coronavirus thing right now, us huggers are having a hard time. You know, we want to touch somebody, you know.
I know.
And it's like, oh, yes. Yeah. And so those kind of things were a challenge to me, and they were hard. And I was struggling with all of these things. But I went to this acupuncturist, and she ended up, she was trying to help me, but for some reason she struggled. And she said, I struggled, excuse me. And she asked me one time, had I ever heard of the Gerson Therapy? The Gerson Therapy was in Mexico. It's an institute in Mexico for severe autoimmune disorders. I hadn't, and so she gave me what is called a VHS. Do you remember this?
Oh yeah, I grew up in the 80s. I get it.
Yeah, so she gave me a VHS. My husband and I watched. We were really impressed with it, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go. Now, didn't have a clue how much it was going to be, but I thought, I'll have a garage sale, and I'll raise some money. Well, that garage sale ended up going into having a huge fundraiser where I ended up having 21 people helping me, and things that were donated that were quality things. My front yard, the side of the yard, the backyard, the garage were packed, and we ended up raising a little over half of what it cost for me to go to Mexico. And so we go to Mexico, and for 2 weeks I was there learning a completely new way to eat and a lifestyle of changing my eating habits, learning about stress and the focus of, you know, what stress does on our body. Just there's so many things that affect our bodies. It's not just one thing, as we know. And I came back home and began starting to juice green juices and carrot juices, green juices that have a combination of, you name it, that's green, you know, the kale and the arugula and all these different vegetables, and doing what's called Hippocrates Soup, which I had on a regular basis, and I was taking really good supplements, and I was doing coffee enemas. So I don't know if anybody that is listening has done coffee enemas, but I did this for 3 years extremely faithfully. And I'd have a girlfriend call every once in a while, and I'd say, well, what are you doing? She says, I'm having a cup of coffee. What are you doing? I'm having coffee, but I'm not drinking it. So, but that was so beneficial. It was so beneficial to change my lifestyle of eating as a home economics major and loving to cook. You cook whatever and you love to cook, but I needed to change, and it was so beneficial to do that. But even with that, those good things, I was still struggling with the stinging all over my body where clothes hurt to touch me, my hands still being stiff in the morning, just the fatigue. There were just so many issues that I was dealing with, and that's the time that I was introduced to the therapy that I do today.
Yes, please tell us more about BEMER Technology, because I've heard that it helps with the increased microcirculation of the body. So tell us more about that.
Well, I didn't realize the very first time that I went to my oncologist, and she said, Debbie, I asked her, how did I get cancer? Nobody in my family has cancer. Well, we know now that like 90%, at least 90% of cancers are stress-induced, she said. Over 90%. And she said, by stress, I mean the air we breathe, which we cannot change, the processed foods that we eat, the lifestyles that we have, the lack of sleep, the lack of exercise, unresolved anger issues. She started listing a few things, and I sat there and then I looked at her and I said, based on what you have said, I should have been dead a long time ago because I was dealing with all of them. Jolene, I had no idea whatsoever that your emotions had anything to do with your health at that time. Didn't have a clue.
Isn't that fascinating? Because
I was thinking if I eat right, but that's not it. It's a accumulation of things. So I say those things to say that when I was introduced to the BEMER therapy, I was doing as many things right as I could do. I had started a contract with this Dr. Roth that I talked to you about because I couldn't even go 2 houses up without, I was out of breath. He said, Debbie, will you do a contract with me? Will you walk 1 block a day for a week? Next week, 2 blocks, next week 3, next week 4, and I did. And then I ended up having a dear friend who's the doctor's wife that I'm at Franklin Park Medical Center with at one time. She said, let's get to the club, and she helped me to get started. My very first time was 1 minute on the treadmill and 2-pound weights. I did this 5 times. I did the elliptical for 30 seconds and I went home, and I felt proud of myself because I had done it. And I worked my way up to where I was going faithfully. So I was exercising and I was eating right, but I was still struggling with a lot of things. And I was pretty down. I was very down. And there's a proverb that says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. Hope not answered makes the heart sick. But a longing fulfilled is like a tree of life. And so my girlfriend knew all of these years of having the fibromyalgia, the Epstein-Barr, all the autoimmune issues, the insomnia, all of these things that I struggled with. And she said, Debbie, could I bring over my BEMER? I didn't have a stinking clue what a BEMER was. I didn't know what it was. And I thought, I don't know about this, but I thought to myself, I'm going to try it. She brought it over. I felt absolutely nothing. She brought it over the next day. I felt absolutely nothing. And then this dear person who's a dear friend of mine today, Bettina Torres, she runs a place called Regeneration Point. She said, Debbie, if you will commit to 20 sessions, I will do it at a discounted price for you. And she did that because she knew that going through all the juicing, all the supplements, cancer treatment, PET scans, we were like up here with bills and finances. And I thought, okay, we're going to do this. So I went, and it was probably close to my 10th or 20th session that my husband was probably the first person to notice, Debbie, you are different. You are having more energy. It was amazing because it was shortly thereafter that I could hug people again, and they could touch me. I would just say, don't touch me, because I hurt so bad, you couldn't touch me. And people began to notice. My husband said, we're going to get one of these. And I was shocked because I had told her, okay, I'll come, but because that's what it took, I realized when I've understood now the benefits of enhanced microcirculation, and that's the benefit of lying on this BEMER 8 minutes twice a day, that it starts to get everything you need. We need 3 things, basically. Our bodies need oxygen supply, nutrient supply, and we need to dispose of that waste, toxic waste. I was getting great supplements. I was getting great food. And as I started getting enhanced circulation and all of those things starting to take place, I was utilizing those good things. And so we need to be able to have good circulation to get those things going in our body. So it's whether it's a medication or whatever it is. And so it was pretty cool to have it at home. And people started noticing that I looked so much better, I was standing, well, I still have bad posture, but, I was not this miserable, sad person. And they asked, could they come over? And then somebody else came over, and other people, can I bring my mother? And literally, I tell people this story. I say, one of my little old neighbors across the street speaking through her mini blinds thinking I'm selling drugs because people are lined up out my house, So that's how I kind of got started doing this. And the doctor's wife took me to some of my sessions because I was to go to Regeneration Point. She took me. I finished my sessions. We purchased this medical device. She continued to go. Her husband is an orthopedic surgeon at Franklin. He was at Franklin Park Medical Center. And then one day she called me and she said, Deborah, Dr. Lang and his wife are here, and his wife is getting incredible improvement with her autoimmune issues, et cetera, and he is getting incredible benefit on his shoulder, which he was going to have replaced, and they would like to get a BEMER. My thoughts were, oh, that's great. And she said, so I can sell this BEMER to them, or I can teach you how to learn the science and learn all of the things to do to be. And I went, how much does it cost? Because we had no money, But my husband said, Debbie, you need to do this. You need to help other people. And I love people. I'm passionate about helping people. I know pain. I know discomfort. I know sadness, sorrow, I know all of those things that now people come, and they come to you. People want to have hope,
Yeah.
So I had something I wanted to show you if I have a second.
Yes, you do have a second.
I don't know if they can see this. This is a picture of my husband and I.
Oh, yes, we can see it.
Yeah, that was when he was, I'm going to tell you, incredible. When you're going through cancer treatment, you need a good support team. You need people who are supporting and loving you. And my oncologist told me, she said, Debbie, you'd be amazed at how many spouses leave their partners when they're going through cancer. And I was blown away because never in my life would I even think my husband would ever do that. And he didn't, but obviously. But I was talking to you about support, and this is my sister right here.
Yeah.
She's pulling back an arrow. I don't know if you all can see that.
I can see it. Mm-hmm.
But she gave this to me, or she put this as an arrow can only be shot by pulling it backward. So when life is dragging you backwards with difficulties, it means that God is going to launch you into something great. So focus and keep aiming.
That's beautiful.
It's ours. It's like,
but it's part of what we're all going through right now, to not focus on the negative, but to know that what we're going through could only make us stronger. And
absolutely,
you sought out all the things that could make you stronger. You wanted more for your life, and you had the support, which is a big deal, having a husband that believes in you and wanted you to succeed in your business. And now today you're helping a lot of other people, and it's part of your journey and your passion, and you're living it out. I love that. Yeah. So how can people get a hold of you if they want to come in for a treatment or learn more about this technology?
Yes, well, I am at Franklin Park Medical Center. My office is there now. Dr. Lang was so impressed with the benefits to before and after physical therapy, or especially with all the surgeries he did, that he ended up having me come in there, which I was very thankful for. And so now I'm actually just being asked, even by a pediatric group that I'm sitting right next to consider. They're considering it in their practice with in the pediatrics. But Franklin Park Medical Center, I love helping people, and I like to give complimentary sessions to start off. So anyone listening, I'm giving 5 complimentary sessions to people, and I just treat them as long as whatever. I treat them like family. So it doesn't matter how long it takes. We do the full body. They lie on a pad for 8 minutes, and then we deal with local issues. And I remember I had a fireman in there years ago, and he came in early in the morning, and he just said, I put soft music on, and it's very therapeutic. And I went in and I said, okay, we're all done. I said, now, is there any other area of concern for you? And he looked at me and said, let me think, I'll think of something. Because he didn't want to get up. So, because it's very relaxing. But I'm at Franklin Park Medical Center in Spokane. And if there's anybody that's listening that's in another state, they can contact me. I can always find someone for them to get a contact with. But my email address is Deborah, DEBORAH .Beard, BEARD, at BEMER Mail, BEMER mail.com. And I would love to send them information. There are people that are science-minded. It has incredible research. It's a 20-year company, and major international patents, and it's a class 2 medical device, which is really an awesome thing.
Yeah, I don't know why I don't have one yet.
Yeah. Well, you have to come see me.
I know. I totally will, because I like being around you.
Yeah. Oh, you're sweet.
Deborah and I used to be in a networking group together, so we'd see each other once a month, and now it's dissolved, so we don't get to see each other much.
Well, I was so happy that you asked me. I wrote down a couple of things, and I thought, I'm wondering if there's anything that I wanted to share with you. But one of the things I would like to tell people that are dealing with cancer treatment is that when you are encouraging someone, I sometimes as a cancer patient, you just want to vent. Sometimes you just feel like crying. Sometimes you don't want them to say anything. You just want them to be there. I had such a sweet friend that came over and cleaned for me. I had another girl that literally, she called me. She's a dear friend of mine here, and she called me. She says, Debbie, how are you doing? and it was just dead silence on the other phone, on the other end. I couldn't even, I was so nauseous. I was so sick. I felt alone. I felt just scared. And it was just silence. She said, Debbie, how are you doing? And Debbie, I'm coming over there right now. And she hung up the phone and she came over. She was such a sweetheart. And then I had another friend that was like in her 80s. She came over and she sat on the couch, and I just put my head on her lap and she just stroked my bald head. And it was so precious. But when you are don't be afraid to come to minister, so to speak. Don't be afraid that because you don't know what to say. There was a gal that said, Debbie, I came to your house 3 times. I pulled up the drive and then I left. I got up the steps and then I left. I almost touched your doorbell the next time I left. I saw her a year later and I said, why? She said, because I didn't know what to say. Well, as a cancer patient, I have had to experience many times saying goodbye to friends, and I didn't want to do it. But my husband reminded me, Debbie, this is not about you. You want to let them know how much you love them, how much they meant to you in your life, and I did that, and it became easier. So there's both sides to being comforted. But I always just say, just do it and just ask, what do you need? If it's just to hold me, it's just to maybe laugh or take it, whatever it is, but to not be afraid to talk to, or to try to help somebody, or just don't be afraid.
Thank you for saying that, because I know that's true for people who have lost spouses or parents even, and in their grieving, they feel even more alone because nobody knows what to say to them. And
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing you're saying here is
Right.
get out of your own way and go minister to that person. Do whatever is necessary to feel uncomfortable. It's okay.
Yes, because they're uncomfortable, and it's an uncomfortable thing, but it's a good thing. People sometimes just want to know, I just wanted you to know I care. So I just feel like that was important. I just wanted to share that. I don't know if you know you've heard of Corrie ten Boom. She was in prison camps during that her and her sister were both in Nazi prison camps. And she was angry, but her sister had told her right before she passed, she said, everything that they were going through, there were so many things they were going through. And she just reminded, and I was always reminded of this when I was walking through my treatment, there is no pit so deep that God is not deeper still. And that just resonated with me. I feel like I'm in a pit, but God's deeper, and just kind of just calling out. I love singing. People know that. I love singing, and I stopped singing. I didn't realize I'd stopped singing because this was 2 years of very aggressive treatment, 2 years every 7 days. And one day I was in the shower and I heard myself start singing, and I startled myself. I went, Daddy, I'm singing. Well, what I realized is I had gone over. I had finally, something happened in my spirit that I felt alive again.
Right. And it's okay to feel not okay, right? That
yeah.
Even in times like what we're going through now, there's no shame in feeling sad or wishing and longing for something else. But absolutely. I love what you said about God being deeper still, that having faith is so important to understanding there's just so much more out there.
It is.
And there's hope.
Yeah. And surrounding yourself with quality people, just quality people. It doesn't matter. I have friends that are believers. I have friends that are not believers. They're all quality people. And it's just incredible because I have people that will, Debbie, they encouraged me. I have grown so much because I went through cancer treatment.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story today. And even what you said at the very end, that was just great to hear about your experience from that perspective and what people who are on the other side could be doing. I love that.
Yeah.
And sharing your family story. And it is just, I talked last week, the gal that was on the show last week was going through infertility and how she came.
I know.
And
wow.
so just, it's amazing how everyone's stories are just a little bit different,
Yeah.
but when we use them for the good of helping others.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if anyone, I said this earlier, or I didn't say this earlier, but Debbie, this is your first interview, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you did awesome.
Well, I just want to tell people it's just important to pay attention to symptoms. Any kind of symptoms you have in your life, it's our body speaking to us. We have these wonderfully and marvelously made, who can know it? Our bodies are wonderfully and marvelously made. And when they're designed to heal themselves, but we have to give our bodies what they need to produce that healing. So it's not anything in one thing in particular that heals the body. The body was designed to heal itself. It's just like when we scratch ourselves, what happens? A scab forms because that's the way we were designed. But I always think of that iceberg principle. We go to the doctors when that tip of the iceberg, and 90-something% of the iceberg is underwater for all of the things that led to us feeling those symptoms. So I'm thankful that I went, and I just say whatever things are going on, if there's a woman listening and she's got different issues, pay attention to your body, pay attention.
And the other thing you touched on earlier that I wanted to come back around to was that when you started doing your BEMER treatments, you were already on a pretty significant healthy lifestyle. And so that really makes a big difference when we're
absolutely
doing any kind of therapies,
yes.
Whether it be something like BEMER or be whatever we choose, but just to start that healthy eating lifestyle, be active, sleep well,
yes.
all the things that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Well, I started sleeping better. It's just the whole thing. I mean, our hearts pump a gallon of blood, if I remember correctly, constantly through our body. I think I'm correct on that gallon, but just pumping all of it. It has the assist. The BEMER vascular therapy is the assist. It's that naturally occurring pumping action that slows down as we get older. So when it's picked back up naturally, then those things that you were talking, everything that we've been doing is going to assist the body and help the body to heal itself. But I definitely was on a good path without any question, but I still was struggling. And, everybody knows chemo is a very, very toxic, aggressive type of thing, but we can still do our best to take care of ourselves. So exercise and eating right, letting go of unresolved anger issues, just doing a lot of good things for your body, getting to bed at a decent hour, taking care of your body, so.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll end on that note. That was perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think my husband just walked in the door, so he's been working at home Danny, are you here? He's been working at home for 5 weeks now, and someone asked us the other day, how you doing? And it's been great. It's been really great. I just said neither one of us have called the police on each other. So he's ready to go back to work, but he's been great. It's been a good thing. This whole COVID thing, we can look at it negatively or we can see all the benefits. And so we're striving to see the positive things of what can happen, when you're stuck in the same house.
Right. And our pastor a couple weeks ago said you could thrive during this or you could just survive.
That's true.
So what is it that you want to do to actually thrive through this? And he had us write a list of things that drain us and things that fill us. And so as a family of 4, we sat around the table and we each had our list of what is draining me and what is filling me. And it was really interesting to hear from each other what it was. And it brought out good conversation about how we can help not drain each other.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
so it's
good.
exercise to do and to understand a little bit deeper what's beneath the surface of our
Yeah.
psyche
Well,
going.
the hardest thing, and you've seen my Facebook page, the harder probably thing is just, I love being with my granddaughter when I can. And we've been doing virtual hugs, reading stories over the, little stories. But the other day it was like, excuse me, it was time to, we'd been in seclusion, they'd been in, I said, I'm going to get me some hugging. So she went up to, and I had my mask on, she had my mask on, and then I just wanted to give her a hug, and because she's been taught the right way, she's going like, is it okay? Is it okay? So we just, did, but my daughter, being a single mom, it was ready. She was having a 4-year-old as a companion for close to 5 weeks was, yeah.
Whoa. Yeah, shout out to all the moms out there that have young ones, and moms and dads, but boy, that's quite the job to be homeschooling kids. Yeah.
Well, I sure enjoyed talking with you today.
Me too. This was fun. Thank you everybody who's watching as well, and we'll be in touch real soon, Deborah.
All right.
Okay.
Bless you. Thank you, Jolene. Okay. Bye.